In this video, we're going to discuss the upcoming El Nino pattern that's going to impact weather across the Great Lakes region and around the globe, and the potential for a developing drought across parts of the Great Lakes region. Hello everyone, the time is 7:44 p.m. and it is May 29th. Welcome to another update from Great Lakes weather. Hopefully everybody's doing well today. It's been a while. There hasn't really been too much going on in terms of weather since May 12th in our previous storm chase with a meteorology group. And it looks like weather's going to remain relatively quiet for an extended period of time as well. It looks like we're not really going to see too much in terms of rainfall across the Great Lakes region, which is not good, especially if you are a farmer. During this time, you're likely going to see some pretty decent dry spells across parts of the Great Lakes region. But in this video, we're going to talk about the upcoming El Nino pattern, which I think might be influencing a lot of what's going on right now as well. I'm not going to necessarily say that for sure, but we're also going to talk about the drought setup that we have across the Great Lakes region as well. So let's get right into it with first of all, this is the current map of temperature anomalies, sea surface temperature anomalies across the entire globe. And what you might notice, something that you might notice, hopefully you can see my pointer there, you might notice right here that there is a little bit of warming along the eastern parts of the Pacific Ocean, and you may notice that it is starting to shift off further to the west in parts of the central Pacific Ocean as well. This is something that is really showing a potential for an El Nino pattern to develop. All right, because if you look at previous images from the 3rd of May, you do notice that that setup is still there, but it was not as pronounced farther out to the west. So what appears to be happening is near the equatorial range is that those eastern trade winds, east to west winds that are moving across the equatorial regions, is starting to push that warmer water out to the west as well. This is something typical of what we can see in an El Nino pattern, and that's something that does appear to be showing up on this latest run of the temperatures across the Pacific Ocean. You do see that really warm plume of warm water across just off the coast of South America shifting to the west. Now you may wonder, why on earth does this impact the weather across our region? Well, it actually does have a decent impact, and I'm going to show you a little why. It's typically more pronounced during the winter, but it can still have impacts on the pattern for the summer and other parts of the year across the globe as well. But we're going to focus specifically on what could change across the Great Lakes region. So here we have 3rd of May, comparing it to now. You do notice that it's a bit more pronounced farther out to the west. So how is that going to influence our weather? So first of all, again, here is another graphic for you across the equatorial Pacific upper ocean temperatures. It's still a little bit above normal across much of that area. So how is that going to influence our weather? You do notice that, again, it's still warming up across that area. Well, one thing that happens when we see the sea surface temperatures around the Pacific Ocean warm up is that we typically have a lower pressure gradient at the surface, because again, warmer surface temperatures at the sea level are going to warm up the air at the surface, going to cause the air to rise. Okay, that's going to create low pressure across parts of the Pacific Ocean. All right, and that low pressure is also going to strengthen the Pacific jet stream. So that is what happens with an El Nino season. A stronger jet stream, a stronger Pacific jet stream, all right, and an amplified storm track is going to occur. Now keep in mind, this map is for the winter months. During the winter months, we see the Pacific jet stream farther to the south. Why? Because again, the colder temperatures are going to be strengthened as a result of our distance change from the sun and the change of the angle of the earth in relative to the sun. We are going to be farther away from it. So that's going to amplify the cooler temperatures and bring the Pacific jet stream farther to the south because of that strengthened polar jet stream farther to the north. Now, we're in the summer months as this El Nino begins to strengthen. So again, this pattern is relatively set up for winter, but what we see during the summer months is that Pacific jet stream could actually be strengthened a little bit. Okay, so it could be lifted a bit farther to the north. So again, this map does not really show that as well, but it is still good to keep in mind that this El Nino intensification process that's ongoing right now could cause this jet stream to strengthen. Now, what does that do? in terms of thunderstorms? Well, first of all, it does tend to hinder the development of hurricanes. So those of you that live in the away from the Great Lakes region, in the tropical regions or the eastern parts of the United States, hurricane season may not be nearly as strong of a hurricane season as we have had in previous years, but still, good thing to keep in mind that strengthened jet streams can promote more quicker thunderstorms and stronger thunderstorms in terms of the different layers of the atmosphere interacting with each other across different areas. We have noticed that the stronger storm activity has stayed much farther off to the west. Now the question is, why might that be the case? We're going to look at that with some of the models in just a minute. But again, keep in mind, as this El Nino strengthens, we're likely going to see some impacts to the Great Lakes region, in that particularly it might be warmer and drier in the winter. I'm not going to confirm that for the summer, but that is a pattern that we have seen throughout the winter, and it could relate to what we are seeing during these incoming summer months as well. Here's the current sea temperatures across the globe, courtesy of windy.com. You got that right here. But here is the current temperatures. You do notice that the sea temperatures are pretty warm across, well, anywhere near the equatorial regions. Gulf of Mexico is quite warm always as well. But we zoom in on the Great Lakes region. Again, water temperatures are still pretty cold. Wouldn't recommend swimming in the water just yet. But still, it's good to keep in mind 49-degree water temperatures. Likely going to continue to warm up as we get into the warmer months, June and July. And I will say the upcoming weather for the next few weeks does look to be pretty quiet across the Great Lakes region. Doesn't really look like there's going to be too much activity. Maybe a pop-up shower and thunderstorm, particularly into mid-June. But the beginning of June looks to be dry, and the potential for a drought. It looks like drought development is going to be probable with the current setup. We currently have what is called a Rex block sitting over the Great Lakes region, and what that does is that enables the pretty much just the air to kind of stagnate in the high pressure system that is there. Let's turn to the temperature map here. Hopefully it generates. There it is. So what tends to happen in these Rex blocks is that the temperatures begin to warm up. This is at 8 a.m. Let's shift it over to 5 p.m. So over this region, where that Rex block, where that high pressure system is just stagnating over the area, you notice temperatures are pretty warmer, even warmer than places down farther to the south. So this place is just where the air is stagnating, and that's just enabling the air to just heat up, continue to rise, continue to sink. But as the air just continues to heat up and heat up, there's nowhere for it to go. So it just sits over us and kind of bakes us. And that's kind of the thing that's going to be happening over this week. Early season heat wave, temperatures will likely rise into the low 90s. Doesn't really look to be too humid, but it does look to be like there could be some hot temperatures come in across the entirety of the Great Lakes region. Even as far north as the Upper Peninsula could see temperatures close to 80 as well. So we're starting to see that June-like weather, but again, hot temperatures do seem to be approaching for the area. Now, let's push to the Climate Prediction Center setup. 6 to 10 day outlook. Again, temperatures look well above average, especially if you're parts of the western Great Lakes region. Southeastern Ohio may have a little chance of seeing a few breaks here and there, but it does look to be a relatively warmer next 6 to 10 days, and drier, especially if you go to the outlook for precipitation for the next 6 to 10 days. You can see that the entire Great Lakes region is leaning below average for rainfall, and that is characteristic of the forecast we have as well, because the forecast does appear to show that we will not be able to get a lot of rain. And it looks like for some cities across the Great Lakes region, it could be the second driest May on record, with I think the number one driest May is set back in the 1930s. So that just goes to show how dry it is outside. And the Climate Prediction Center is mentioning that one thing with Indiana and Ohio, they are putting out a risk for rapid onset drought. So if you are a farmer in central Indiana, southern Ohio, you might want to keep in mind that this is going to be impacting you, this dry weather, not to mention the fire risk that could exist with this, as well as the all the different everything just begins to dry out, because it's not really going to be too humid, likely not going to get too much rain. Small chance of rain Wednesday, but it looks like it's going to be relatively dry. So just keep in mind Watch your fires. I just lit one today, and it did start to get a little out of hand before it was put a stop to it. But keep in mind, going to be dry, going to be hot. You're going to want to watch your fires that you burn, especially if you're out Memorial Day weekend, you're camping, enjoying the outdoors during this dry period. So let's look at the actual models to see exactly what is showing up on them. I do want to get a look at the height anomaly as well, so we're going to pop a new tab for that, and we'll look at that first. But again, you have a high pressure system that really is just settling over the area. Very long lasting high pressure system. It's not really going to move away from the Great Lakes region for a long time. In fact, it could get stronger at times, and you'll see those temperatures rise up into the low 90s later this week as a result of that. So definitely going to be hot over the next for quite a while. I don't think we're going to see much of a change with regards to that through even into the first 7 days of June. So keep that in mind. And again, with the precipitation, doesn't really look to be too much. There is potential for some rainfall to develop Wednesday afternoon. I'll show you that real quick. You do see a few pop-up showers and thunderstorms across parts of western Indiana and northern Michigan. Probably won't be severe. I don't see any severe weather in the future. Going to be kind of quiet across much of the region, but you do have temperatures in the 90s. Cape values around 1500. No relative felicity. It's not really going to be there's not really going to be any strong wind shifts in the upper or low levels of the atmosphere. Elevated cloud bases. Really just going to be those nice rainy thunderstorms that you have, which would be good for anyone at this particular point across the Great Lakes region. It's so dry, and you really need that rainfall. So just keep in mind, you're going to have to, if you're a farmer, you're going to have to get your irrigations running over the next few days, because I don't see rain as a very likely scenario in the future. So, and probably for the next several days. So you're going to want to definitely be prepared for that if you are in need of it. So just keep that in mind, and I'll show you a quick run of the temperatures real quick over the next several days. Temperature's going to rise in and out between the mid 80s, upper 80s to the low 90s. Eventually, as we start to get into the latter part of early June, we'll start to see temperatures drop down towards maybe the low 80s. So there will be some changes in temperature, but it's going to stay relatively warm, warmer than average. You can see June 2nd, Friday, June 2nd, you see those temperatures rise even up towards 94 near Grand Rapids area, and then temperatures in the 90s pretty much across all of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. So, and then you look at the heat index. I don't really expect the heat index to change too much, but there will be a bit more moisture in the atmosphere on Wednesday, given the fact that we have potential for some thunderstorm development during that day. But it looks like it's going to be still really just a dry heat that we'll be dealing with over the next several days. So just keep that in mind, and hopefully you got some helpful information here, and we're going to continue to provide helpful information. No storm chasing in June. I will not be out and about doing anything like that. Got more important things to be doing during that time, so just be aware of that, and stay tuned to local weather forecast offices during that time. Stay tuned to them anyway. But July and August, I'll be back out on the storm chasing train, so hopefully you will all be there. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.